I am a Pakistani spy. I stole classified file from enemy's army camp and sent it to my country. Real story of Pakistani spy. If you want to know how I reached across borders, then visit old videos in our channel. If you have not subscribed our channel, then subscribe it now and press the bell icon so you will never miss any update of our stories. Let's move towards story. Finally, I told him that I should go to the reception and tell him that no one should disturb me and no phone calls should not be transferred to me until the evening. After going to the reception, I gave 50 rupees in the hands of the clerk and told him to call me after 15 minutes and hang up the phone as soon as he heard my voice. After making this arrangement, I went to Asha and took her to the room. As soon as she entered the room, Asha was frank, lay half on my bed. To avoid an immediate attack, I told him why not make the occasion more enjoyable. I asked the barman over the phone to send a bottle of Scotch whiskey and ice. After making this call, I signaled to her that I was going to the bathroom. I had not even left the bathroom when the phone rang. Asha picked up the phone and placed the receiver on the table. I had come out of the bathroom by then. She told me, "Someone wants to talk to you on phone." On the other hand, was the receptionist. Hearing my voice, he hung up the phone. On the other hand, I started a one-sided conversation on the phone saying, "Ramesh sir, you? Why did you bother to come? I would have been called. I would have attended immediately. Well, is your partner also with you? Please sit in the lobby. I'll be there right away." After saying this, I hung up the phone. Asha was looking at me with half-open eyes. I told her that I was angry. Punjab and Haryana agents of my tea in Delhi have come with their partners. I scolded the receptionist that why did she tell them that I was in the room contrary to my instructions. Now I have to meet him and accompany him to his office. Asha was a bit disappointed. I hugged her and said that today, the hemp has fallen before the color has set, but in the coming days, we will fully compensate for today's loss. Asha fixes her makeup. I told her that if she gave me her phone number, I would inform her about the new program over the phone. Asha kept quiet. Asha wrote the number on the pad on the table and suddenly said to me, "Vinod, I promise I will win you." She fixed her makeup again and we left the room and went down in the elevator. I came outside to drop her off. She sat in a foreign convertible car in the parking and drove away at high speed. I came back to the room and fell asleep trying to control myself. With Asha, I wanted to not only maintain but also increase my relationship. These types of women have relationships with people from every class of high society. Through Asha, I'd meet many work people. I wanted to treat Asha like a precious gem. I spent that evening in the hotel. Just went to Connaught Palace to get my clothes. The clothes were ready for the trial. I gave a try and 2 days later I got my clothes. Now, I was fully prepared to enter this high society, which was full of senior civil and military officers. Meanwhile, my colleagues were not sitting idle either. I traced my position in the house and office of the civil officers and clerks of the army headquarters. Also got information about the yellow conditions in their house. People living in the house, especially children and young girls and unmarried sisters. They gave me all this information, and I noted down the code words in my diary. This information could be very useful for us. We had a lot of money. I met an American couple at the Lodi Hotel, whom I found out in conversation that they were visiting Kathmandu. One thing I noticed was that the couple sat in the dark in a corner of the hotel garden almost every night. One night, I approached them from behind the bushes. I smelled hashish. I immediately dreamed of something, and suddenly I came in front of them and said that it is strictly forbidden to smoke hashish here, and you are smoking it openly. If I catch you, you will be jailed for many years. They got scared. I told them that I don't want to catch them. I had my eye on their Rode Flex camera. I told them that I want to buy this camera, but what is the best advice for my price? They were so scared that they agreed immediately. I took camera at the same time and came to the reception. That woman brought her camera from the room, and I bought her camera for 600 rupees, and got the front office manager and cashier to sign the receipt so that they would not make noise later. They were so scared that they checked out of the hotel on the second day. I handed over the camera to my number 2, the transmitter operator, and told him to use this camera to photograph the civilian employees of the army headquarters whom he had pursued, and also to take pictures of their family members and the names of the family members. Find out and write their names in English behind the pictures and get more information about them. They should write to me. Also had tracked down the sweepers cleaning the quarters and find out their house addresses and names and get their pictures too. In India, shooters or Dalits have been doing the cleaning work for thousands of years. After independence, they thought that the caste distinction would end, but the opposite happened. Under the rule of the British, the upper caste Hindus could not oppress the lower castes so much, but after getting freedom, they got all kinds of freedom. Shudras were given the name of Malik, but in each village, they were given a place not to be separated from the rest of the village, and they were ordered to hoist a red flag in their village. Even their wells and temples are separate, and a Dalit can neither drink from the wells of high caste Hindus nor visit their temples. The Dalits could not bear the situation for long, and apart from the male Dalit, there were dozens of Dalit women like Phula and Devi, who avenged their humiliation by the high caste Hindus. Hindus now have little faith in Dalits. Apart from the Dalits, the cleaners are also Christians. Christians are kept in the Indian Army for cleaning, and as per my plan, a lot of work had to be done from the cleaners, so I wanted to get all possible information about them. I put my 4 colleagues on this task. During this time, I received 2 or 3 calls from Asha. I assured her of my longing and love on the phone so much that her passion flared up a bit more. I told her that my huge consignment of tea had reached Bombay. In Bombay, monsoon and humidity, that tea cannot be stored there for long, and I am trying to sell it in that area, so I could not meet her for a few more days. I will be busy. One day, I went to the services club just before 2 o'clock. There, the names and ranks of the officers residing there were written on a board in the reception. I quickly noted down the names and ranks, and went to the club secretary's room and asked for a colonel. Among the names written down, he replied that at that time he was on duty and would be able to meet after 7 o'clock in the evening. I thanked him and said that I have not seen the colonel before. I want to meet on a friend's reference. The secretary said that in the evening he will also be here and will take me to the colonel. And in the same evening, I dressed up well and reached the Services Club, New Delhi. The secretary was not present in his office. I started walking in the club lawn. The arrival of members in the club had already started. I was also keeping an eye on them during the walk. Some young officers in civil and uniform were standing in a separate group in lawn, while at some distance from them, the middle-aged top brass had his own separate group. I saw that a middle-aged man with a big mustache was sitting on a chair near the other corner of the lawn, completely separate from them. On the table in front is a bowl of premium foreign whiskey and ice, and on the other side of the table is an empty chair. Out of sheer curiosity, strolled towards him. He was slowly sipping the wine. Behind him was a man who looked like Batman. He stood politely. I stood at a little distance from him and started looking around. Sometimes I would look at him with a smile, and sometimes I would look at the time on my watch. I was showing off like I'm waiting for someone. Seeing his style, I remembered General retired Gul Hazen, who used to stay at the Fleischmann Hotel in Rawalpindi even during his service, and used to have his party in the lawn in the evening. And Brigadier retired Nasiruddin Humayun in Karachi, who was the former chairman of the Karachi Gymkhana, is the most isolated. They used to spend the evening. One thing may be of interest to the readers is that it was General Gul Hazen who accepted the resignation of President General Yahya Khan and made Bhutto the chief martial law administrator and president. And after being the head of the army for only 6 weeks, he disagreed with the president. Because of this, he was removed from this post. I started to think that maybe this man with the mustache is also living a solitary life, and my guess turned out to be 100% correct. A few minutes must have passed when he addressed me and asked me to come to him. I guessed from the awe and majesty of his voice that he was no lower in rank than brigadier. "Are you waiting for someone? Are you from armed forces?" I told him that, "Sir, you have said half right. I am waiting for someone, but I am not an army officer." He was a soldier. He examined my curse and said, "What a shame that a person like you should be in the army. If you want, you can sit with me," and I sat on the empty chair. When I introduced myself, he said that I am a colonel in the army and work in the general headquarters. I told him that you did not tell one thing, that you are unmarried. He stared at me for a few seconds and then said, "How do you know this?" I replied, "Sir, this is observation and face reading." I continued my talk, looking at his face carefully. "That your face is telling that you are a very strong-willed and decisive personality. You have loved only once, and after it failed, you marry the army in discipline, and spend the evening drowning in alcohol, which brings back bitter memories of your past." The colonel looked at me dumbfounded for a few moments. I felt as if the colonel was holding back his tears with great difficulty. He sat down on the chair. He made a peg and put it in front of me and said, "Soda or water?" replied on the rocks. He put some ice cubes in my glass. The colonel did not reply to my words, but said that "I am glad to meet you and come to me whenever you want in the evening. In the very limited circle of my friends, you are an addition." After a while, the colonel turned his head back to call his Batman. So I poured my glass on the grass of the lawn, apologized to him. After a while, got up from there. The name of this colonel was Shankar, and in the following pages, you will read how much success this colonel led to. I went to the club secretary's office. He was in the office. He took me to a group of people sitting on couches in the bar of the club and pointed to one person and said, "Colonel Maiden is sitting." Then he approached him and said, "Sir, this man came to meet you today." Where Colonel Maiden looked at me questioningly. I told him that I have come to you from Joshi's reference. The name Joshi was coined by me because Joshi is used at the end of the name a lot in India. Colonel Maiden thought for a few moments and said, "You mean Colonel Joshi of IT Punjab?" I nodded and said that I am distantly related to him. "I am Chopra." The colonel got up laughing. He warmly shook hands with me and said that Joshi and I were together in Jessore, a cantonment in former East Pakistan where war was high during the 1971 war, and the Punjab regiments of Pakistan and India bravely fought two heavy battles. The colonel made me sit on the sofa while I introduced my business to him. The colonel invited me for a drink, which I accepted, and said that the purpose of meeting you was that I was very bored here in Delhi, especially spending the evening is a punishment. That's why I came to meet you today, and still come to spend at least one evening in a pleasant environment. The colonel replied that "Be my guest, I live here in the club, and I will call the club secretary now and tell him to treat you as my guest whenever you want to come to the club." At the same time, he told me on the phone that when you come alone, you must pay your bill. I said I will, and thanks for your hospitality. Colonel introduced me to his colleagues. Their conversation was interrupted by my arrival. Then it started, and I started actively participating in it. I wanted more and more officers to be open and frank. Meanwhile, Colonel Maiden called the club secretary and gave my instructions, and in no time, I joined them. Officers were coming to the club in evening jackets or evening suits. Military officers are very easy to recognize there. An officer of any rank gets attention while entering through the door of the bar. Just like saluting without a hat, and a gambling den civilian is coming. They used to enter straight away. Meanwhile, there was more excitement on the lawn than inside the clubhouse. Dozens of tables and chairs were placed on the lawn, and many young officers and a few couples were sitting there. Colonel Maiden invited me to accompany him to the card room after about an hour. I apologized profusely and said, "Forgive me, I do not know how to play games, especially bridge." Along with the colonel, 2 or 3 of his colleagues also stood up. All of them were majors and lieutenant colonels who remained seated. After a while, I took permission from them and went to the lawn. During the training, I was told that officers up to captain and new major are very careful while high brass officers above major are not very careful. If these high brass get in touch, then even the young officers do not doubt those who meet with the seniors. I walked for some time in the lawn from one corner to another, holding a glass in my hand, and then I went back to my hotel. Rain has started in Delhi. There were dark clouds in the sky. After a while, it started drizzling and then it broke and rained so much that all sides were burnt. Here I have something to offer to the readers. We 5 people who came to India from Pakistan to complete the mission were not unusual people. It was our passion under which we undertook to do this dangerous work head-on and volunteered ourselves. Along with the successes in India, we also faced some failures, which will be mentioned later. Meeting Asha in Delhi, meeting Colonel Shankar and Colonel Maiden at the Services Club. My colleagues investigating the office and home conditions of the civil servants of the Army headquarters. And beyond that, our further running and efforts were just the result. One of the objectives was that we could not only enter the headquarters, but also establish contacts there to get important information. Instead of looking for a contact, and if that fails, then looking for another contact. My strategy was to attack the enemy or my target from all sides. Not only saving time, but also finding a weak point of the enemy. There was also a strong possibility of meeting. We needed to establish continuity and up-to-date information, and for that, we were prepared to find not a few but hundreds of contacts, be they the highest or the lowest. We were ready to go to extreme heights and extreme depths to achieve our goal. Call it what you want, the love of the country or the pain of the wounds inflicted by the fall of Dhaka. Unconcerned with danger and its consequences, they strive to achieve their goals. Thank you so much for watching our video. This is real story of Pakistani spy Abu Shuja Abu Wakar, the man who served in India as a spy agent in the cover of Open Tea Trader. If you have no subscribed, then subscribe our channel now and press the bell icon so you never miss any update of this story. If you like the video, please give it a like, comment below to let us know your opinion. We will meet you again with another episode. Till then, have a good care of yourself.